My name is Chris DC. I'm about to talk about Mary Magdalene. I wanted to give you a bit of a tour, first of all, around some of the literature in the area of Jesus films, although admittedly this is an unusual film in the sense that it's about how Jesus is perceived through the lens of Mary Magdalene, the apostle of the apostles, and certainly an attempt to rehabilitate her. I'll say something about that in just a moment. Some of the literature that's in this area, we can see some of the books here, for example, Saviour on the Silver Screen by Stern, Jefford and Bonner. And if I take you through over to this side of the room, okay, we have a few more here, like Jesus at the Movies by William Barnes Tatum, which is next to Larry Kreitz's Gospel Images in Fiction and Film. So what did I think of Mary Magdalene? I thought it, to be honest, it languished a little bit in the middle. I think expectations are always high when another retelling of the Jesus story is introduced. This version, though, dares to be different, as it is told through the lens of Mary Magdalene, with Jesus sometimes reduced to a supporting role. But this film attempts to rehabilitate her, following the 6th century attempt by Pope Gregory to brand her a prostitute. The reason why is indicated in this film by the distrust accorded her by her family and by the other 12 male apostles for daring to be different. In the opening scene, we see her helping bring a child into the world, but marriage and children are not for her. Rooney Mara, who at times I thought seemed to be channeling a young Juliette Binoche, portrays Mary as a prototypical feminist. In an early scene, she's castigated not because she wants to pray, but because she runs off alone in the night to pray in the temple, and her father tells her there is something unnatural inside her, leading to her forcible baptism. But upon encountering Jesus, first introduced as the healer, she meets someone who intuitively understands her own sense of vocation, and Jesus later confides in her exclusively, noting, for example, that she is the only disciple to ask him what it feels like to be God. He tells her there are no demons here, and before baptizing her himself, her symbolic second baptism, he commands her to wash away the stains of your corruption and be born anew. The fear is that her gender and forthrightness and daring to break convention will divide our community. But it is only Mary who sees in advance that Jesus is Prince of Peace, whereas the other disciples see their role as foot soldiers for the revolution that lies ahead. She understands the kingdom to grow with every aspect of love rather than through flames and bloodstains. Joaquin Phoenix plays Jesus with no less anguish than he brought to the role of the Travis Bickle-like redeemer / destroyer of You Were Never Really Here, which I saw just the night before at the cinema. And this is a Jesus closest than any other to Willem Dafoe's tortured, even neurotic Jesus of Scorsese's The Last Temptation of Christ. If I have a criticism, it is that the film does not really get under the skin of the characters, and it wouldn't be the first time that a Jesus film might be picked up in that department. Joaquin Phoenix could not be more different from, say, Max von Sydow's know-it-all, static and inaccessible Jesus of The Greatest Story Ever Told. But at times, this film tries a little too hard to present Mary as a feminist icon, to the point that at times it was easy to forget, I thought, that it is set in 1st century Judea. Indeed, the opening scenes of Mary swimming underwater was uncannily reminiscent of the beginning of this year's Oscar-winning The Shape of Water, which promoted a similar message of a reactionary society, in that case early 1960s America, crying out for a female role model to tame male aggression and bring it to its senses. If only life really were like the movies.